More storms are likely in the coming days as a cold front pushes them southward. The same cold front will also bring in some temperature changes to the pattern. This video has the latest on USA weather for the rest of this week. This graphic on screen overviews the weather setup for the next few days, where a cold front is set to bring in a cool down to some parts of the northern and northeastern U.S. Ahead of that front, storms and heat will remain, but those impacts will get squeezed closer towards the Gulf and East coasts. I'm about to time out some of those storms using Weather Bell maps. Make sure you're checking out the Weather Bell free trial link down below so that you can access those same maps right at your fingertips. With that being said, that leads me into this overview of the future radar timeline for the next several days, starting out as we go into tomorrow, which is our Wednesday, July 30th of 2025. You can clearly see where the cold front is set to be marching in, or more like slowly seeping in from the north, from parts of the northeast U.S., back through the Ohio Valley and Midwest, stretching all the way into the central and high plains. There will be a scattered to widespread coverage of storms into the afternoon and evening, thanks to this cold front. The only other area where there will be a better chance for some showers and storms is in some parts of the southeast U.S., where there has been some moisture moving around a recent high-pressure system already. As the calendar turns from Wednesday to our Thursday, July 31st, the front will sag a little bit further south and east. That means zones from the lower and mid-Mississippi Valley on over into the southeast and mid-Atlantic regions will have a better chance for storms by that point in time. The coverage should be fairly scattered to widespread over this circled zone, and a few storms could even be on the strong to severe side. The front will only slow down more as the week finishes off, but it will make it close enough towards the Gulf and East Coast for there to be a cool down over pretty much a lot of the eastern lower 48. Storms will still be around places like the Carolinas on Friday, though. There will also be an active storm pattern evolving into the weekend a little bit further west from there, as we see some new jet stream energy working its way out of parts of the Mountain West and out into the high and central plains. One reason that this front is set to continue producing feisty storms is because there's going to be a lot of storm fuel in place due to daytime heating south of the front. Daytime heating helps get an ingredient called CAPE going. This is convective available potential energy. That's what the acronym stands for. You can see that by the time we get towards the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday, along and south of where that front will be moving in, that's where we are going to get moderate to high levels of CAPE setting into place. That includes zones from the high plains and the central plains through the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and towards the Mid-Atlantic. All of these zones could get some feistier storms to pop up, and I'll actually time out Wednesday specifically in just a moment. As the cool down continues spilling south out of Wednesday night and into Thursday, we will see energy struggle to get further north on Thursday afternoon, but still, in zones where we do have the energy, it is going to be feisty. That includes zones from the lower Mississippi Valley over into the southeast and mid-Atlantic once again. Into Friday, we'll be even closer down towards the Gulf and East Coast, where we see the energy reside. It still could produce some strong to severe storms where it exists, though. Before I move on, let's take the promised quick look at the timing on the higher resolution scale for these storms on Wednesday. Using this model on screen, you can see that there are going to be some storms likely ongoing over the Midwest on our Wednesday morning. That will help in producing more storms that fire up on the boundary's leading edge into the afternoon and evening. Once we get towards 2, 3, 4 o'clock, I expect lots of storms out of Iowa into Missouri, parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, possibly even southwestern Michigan and northern Indiana. All of these zones could see some brief damaging winds or some large hail out of the stronger storms. We'll also get a few storms getting going out of the afternoon into the evening over some parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. This guidance is probably underdoing it a little bit, but there will be enough coverage for there to be some stronger storms in the mix as well. We will also see a similar ordeal happening back into the high plains and stretching out into the central plains with time into the night. Any of these storms coming out of Wyoming and Colorado trying to get into South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas could be producing isolated severe weather. Even into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, some severe weather could target zones ahead of the slowly sagging front. There's the key word, though, slowly sagging. That also means there's going to be the potential for storms to train over some of the same areas. That will result in flooding potential by the time we get through the end of the week. This is a look at the Weather Prediction Center's forecasted rainfall through Saturday early morning, especially over the next 48 hours is when a lot of this rain in the Midwest and mid-Mississippi Valley is set to fall. Parts of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. I'm circling you because 1 to 3 inches plus of rain could result in a quick evolving flood threat. Despite the fact that the date on the top left of the screen indicates that this falls through Saturday morning, a lot of this is going to fall through Thursday in these zones. Be on the lookout for flooding, especially over the next 48 hours there. And then as we get closer to the east coast, from the mid-Atlantic back down to the southeast, these are zones that I'd be watching closer as we get towards Thursday night, Friday, into Saturday, as storms will have been increasing in coverage each day there. Especially in zones that exceed 1 or 2 inches of rain and get closer towards 3, 4, and 5. That's where we're going to get at least some isolated to scattered into pockets of flooding to also evolve. Now that I've briefed you on the latest for our storm chances in the coming days, let's talk about the temperature changes coming along with this front. Of course, ahead of the front, as we go through the rest of the midweek timeframe, temperatures are expected to remain warmer than average. That includes zones like the south central U.S., the southeast, and even on up into the mid-Atlantic. Further north from there, though, it's already going to be a little cooler than average in terms of temperatures through the next 24 to 48 hours. By the time we get into the 48 to 72 hour range, around Friday, that is when things are going to be even cooler over a broader span. A vast majority of the north central, Midwest, and northeastern U.S. regions are set to be well below average in terms of temperatures as we finish off the week. The only zones still warmer than average will be closer towards the Gulf Coast and the immediate southeast coast of the USA. By the weekend, even if it's still stormy in some of the zones further south, it is set to cool down as cloud cover increases there as well. It is going to be nice in terms of temperatures for a lot of the country. Even further west, there will be some relief from any of the valley heat that we've been seeing as of recently into the weekend. Really looks like some big changes are on the way in. Let's see what that means for our actual temperature numbers. Here we are taking a look at the daily temperature slideshow forecast from the National Digital Forecast Database. You can see first that as we go into tomorrow on our Wednesday morning, things are not going to be very pleasant as you wake up over a lot of zones just yet. We're going to have 70s from the Midwest down to the Gulf Coast and up a lot of the East Coast. In those same areas, the afternoon is going to be a hot one. In fact, in all these zones that I'm circling, we are set to see mid and upper 90s as a common theme for the high. That includes zones from Texas and Oklahoma all the way as far northeast as parts of the New York City metro region. Keep an eye on the temperature numbers further north, though. We're already going to have 70s for highs on Wednesday in a place like the upper Midwest. By Thursday morning, you can really see the cooler temperatures starting to sink down a bit. We've got some 50s coming down through the Dakotas into Nebraska. Same goes out of Minnesota and Iowa into northern Missouri. Out of the Great Lakes, trying to creep towards the Ohio Valley, some 60s. We'll also see some 50s and 60s infiltrating the interior northeast. Further south, though, still looking at 70s for the time being. Highs further south will once again be in the 90s. That includes zones from the Carolinas and Virginia back on over to at least Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma. Look at the highs further north, though. An expanding field of afternoon 70s will already be as far south as Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio by Thursday. Look at the lows into Friday morning. We will also see our 50s line creeping further south. Here's where we are going to see some 50s entering the picture. That's going to include zones further south than the lower shores of Lake Michigan even. We're going to see 60s getting as far south as the Tennessee Valley and some parts of the Mid-Atlantic by Friday. Friday afternoon, more improvement to the highs. Only the states bordering the far southeastern coast of the U.S. as well as the Gulf Coast are set to still be holding on to 90s. Zones further north will quickly go down through the 80s and then into the mid and upper 70s for highs. There is going to be a very big field of temperatures around 75, 76, 77, 78 from the Midwest over to the Ohio Valley. Last but not least, I want to show you the highs for Saturday because there's even more improvement there. Look at this huge dip. You can see how the jet stream really is diving on down. Even as far south as the northern parts of our Gulf Coast states, the western Carolinas, western Virginia, we're going to see some 80s at least making their way in. And that's improvement after lots of 90s. Saturday will be yet another day where zones in Minnesota and Iowa, further east towards Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, are in the 70s. It's going to stay pleasant for several days there. Further west, though, we are going to see our heat starting to build up through some parts of the southwestern valleys. Many zones in far southeast California, southern Nevada, parts of Arizona, and Utah even are going to be looking at some triple-digit heat into the weekend. With that being said, that brings me to the end of this update video where I'd love to recap the headlines that I just discussed. Of course, the main thing to note is that a front is set to continue slowly sinking southward over the next few days. Elevated storm chances will exist for millions ahead of that front. Meanwhile, temperatures will be dropping up north to end the week behind that front. Relief may, and in fact probably will, make it very far south. Maybe not all the way to the Gulf Coast, but at least to the northern part of our Gulf Coast states. That's where our cooldown is set to make it. 80s are better than 90s, that's the way I see it, so any relief down south this time of the year is welcome. If you did enjoy this video and you have not already, make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That definitely helps support my content and this channel in general in the algorithm. I'm sure I'll have another update video within the next couple of days, so make sure you're turning on notifications as a subscriber so that you don't miss my content when I post it right here on YouTube. Thank you all for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one.
One Nation Web.